What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. We are your hosts, the Distorted Theorists, just coming out of, well, it's not the premiere. It's not even a week later. It's
my fault.
This is the part 2 of something that was missed. We just came out of Ballerina here
from the world of John Wick.
From the world of John Wick, Ballerina, and all that stuff. Here at Cineplex Studios in St. John's. But before we talk about the movie, there's a couple of things we got to take care of.
And that is, as always, if you want to support the channel, we do appreciate if you would just take 1 second to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and by now, if you've seen Ballerina from the world of John Wick, let us know in the comments, did you enjoy it, and what were your thoughts after you hear our review? Now, Peter, you were the John Wick guy when we started this channel. But I'd like to think that after your suggestions, and of course it started with the Ballerina trailer that brought me a little interest. I've caught up, I watched all 4, now of course we've seen Ballerina, but...
I still remember, you're like, nah man, that's not for me.
Listen, I swear on anything that the Ballerina trailer made me interested, I'm not gonna lie, in the John Wick world. But you started off in a, what does John Wick mean to you, and why does this movie come to prominence now? Like,
John Wick to me wasn't even the premise of John Wick when it first started. It was the fact that I have always been a big Keanu Reeves fan, and like watching him in Speed and seeing bits. I still haven't seen Point Break, but a lot of the stuff through the years, especially with the Matrix trilogy,
me, obviously.
I was always, Keanu Reeves has got something about him that's not like, he's not Leonardo DiCaprio, he's not Tom Cruise, he's his own, in his own right, his own actor. And when I heard, so I heard that he was going to be returning to action after being out of that limelight for such a long time after the Matrix. And then I heard about the first movie, like, oh, it's just kind of a shoot 'em up. He doesn't talk very much in it. So going forward, I didn't even see the first 2 until the second one was streaming.
And then you kind of played catch up?
And then I was like, all right, I'll watch John Wick. And then I got the story of, like, they killed my dog. And the first one was a standalone. It was kind of like its own standalone. It could have
he didn't know how it was going to do.
Right.
But here we are, 4 sequels later. But why, obviously, spoilers for anyone who hasn't watched John Wick. Obviously, he is dead in the 4th one.
John Wick 5.
Yeah, but it's also announced. But this Ballerina takes place between Parabellum number 3 and number 4. What do you think this story, before we get into our actual review, what do you think this story had to be told?
Money. I do think that it's basically diving into the deeper lore of
just expanding
John Wick,
on that world, from the world of John Wick, expanding
because we learned more about the Continental through the show. We learned about the Roma Resca through the end, like the last 2 John Wick movies, and the Council and all the other thesaurus
and now here we are, I guess, learning about more exposition of what exists outside the Continental and the rules, so to speak. Obviously, we're going to try to
tribes.
Yeah, we're going to keep this review as spoiler-free as possible. Anna de Armas as Eve Macaro is the starring role in this one. Also trained by the Resca Roma, just as John Wick had brought up in. It was nice to see. Well, first of all, you're seeing a more female role, obviously, than a male role in the action. But I liked
the training.
I liked the training sequence, but I also liked that John Wick is very OP. Let's obviously, right? We never really seen him have a bad day, so to speak. I found this one was very novice. You see the noviceness.
She was stumbling. She wasn't being able to like.
Exactly. She made some mistakes.
She was missing shots.
But I felt that wasn't a knock. That is just added to the realism of you're actually seeing where the training started, how it's going, and where is it going to end. So I really like that part of it myself. I thought the action sequences were very...
the action is...
Well, it's very John Wick-y, but...
And there was a movie that came out last year, and as much as I enjoyed it, the tagline from everyone that was working on it was saying, like, this is a love letter to stunt people. And it was The Fall Guy. Fall Guy was a great movie. I really enjoyed it. It really fell flat.
Never did see?
No. The John Wick movies are love letters to stunt. Yes, they go into a little bit more about the stunt stuff in The Fall Guy, and you get to see the racing and all that stuff. Yeah. But this is I think like 95% of the people that are in a John Wick movie are stunt people. Because they're like, I'm on screen, pop, I'm on screen.
But you know what? Like, I don't know about you, and please feel free to comment. I felt like the action was a little unique from the John Wick movies. Like, as much as you're like, you get that sound effects, whatever. I felt like the way she was killing people and stuff like that had her own flavor on it. I don't know.
Well, it has to.
Right?
It has to. Because we look at this from John Wick. John Wick is a surgeon. When he does his stuff through 1 through 4, he's able to go pop, pop, pop.
Yeah.
He's able to, and they're trained to be able to, because which we saw in the training sequences.
Yeah.
We were able to like check their corners, do all this stuff.
Yeah.
So we got to see that. But he's been doing it for
It
so
was
long.
nice to see behind the curtain that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's done the impossible mission, which we're hoping to get to see in the animated John Wick series that's going to be coming out at some point. But because Eve's character is so new and she's little, she is, funnily enough,
She got to find those means. She got to find.
She
those
is
means.
a tank in this. Like when you see her hit someone or kick someone or someone gets hit in some way from her, it's not just like a.
Yeah.
It's like
It's calculated. I felt it was.
It's not.
Really? I felt it was like a little.
It is calculated, but it's not in terms of like, well, I know if I can hit him
No,
right
no,
here, I take
no.
his arm out. What you see John Wick do, or if he shoots them. Her, she's like, I'm gonna hit him, and then she hits him, and it's not these little quick like.
Yeah.
She's going over the top.
I felt this was actually more, for anyone going to watch this, I thought it was a little more brutal than most of the John Wick movies. Some of the deaths that he performs was like
viscera.
Yeah, there was some bloodshed, a lot of explosions. So if that's your type of action movie, definitely going to want to go see this. I loved how she used the environment as well, but also. It was very story driven. I mean, it was a little bit of a trope, lost someone, vengeance, revenge, whatever you want to say, avenging. But the way that they wove it together, it makes you kind of back Eve's character as like, oh yeah, like if she got the talent, why wouldn't you use it to do that mission?
We know her backstory. We don't know John's backstory.
That's right.
So, but there were a couple of choices. I'm not going to get into specific details that were kind of like they were questionable. Like, why did we do that when you could have just done this?
Yeah.
And I understand it's to set up the next set piece, to set up the next stunts, because again, like I said, this is a stunt person's movie, very similar to the Mission Impossible series. I went into this like, what's going to be the big thing this time? In John Wick, it was basically the first time you get to see them do all the pop, 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 pop.
Yeah.
In the second one, it was the bike chase and him on the horses. In the third one, or in the final thing in the Continental, the third one, as well as the desert scene. And in 4, it was the over-the-top video game, Dragon's Breath, shotgun scene, and the stairs. In this one, you've seen part of it in the trailers.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into it much more than that.
You're talking about the.
And how
it was there,
and how it extends more. And it was you see it for a split second in the trailer, but it is drawn out and it works.
But you know what? Speaking of drawn out, actually, good time to touch on this. I liked how the movie started. I want to air quote this as slower than I thought, but it actually gave you 20 minutes of exposition on Eve McCarroll before her journey even begins, which I think the movie needed to really, like you said, really establish who that character is, because they do want to separate this from John Wick, which
is funny, because that's how John Wick started.
Right, but also brings me to. We seen in the trailers Baba Yaga, John Wick, Keanu Reeves is going to be in this movie, but he did not overshadow, in my opinion. He was used tastefully, and for the John Wick fans, he was used in a way that you wanted to see him.
His contractual obligation was fulfilled.
Yeah, so we got a taste of both, but it definitely was a backseat for Keanu to let Ana de Armas, Eve McCarroll, to take that spotlight and not overshadow, because that is something that you do run into movies like this when it's from the world. They got to tastefully tie it into the world, give us those little cameos, and I think that they done this one well.
This isn't the Book of Boba Fett, which was Mandalorian season 3.5 or 2.5.
Now, I'm hoping you can think of a negative, but I'm going to give my little, just something that I noticed, if you will. One thing I thought the very first big action-y sequence, it looked a little sloppy when I was watching it, but again, and maybe a good thing, I don't know if it was just the choreography was a little sloppy, or was it the noviceness of the character of Eve McCarroll being sloppy in that moment, and maybe I just didn't connect the two. But that's literally probably the only negative about the movie that I personally have. Once after that, it seemed like it got its legs under it and just kept going. So,
there was a story choice that was made for what she's going up against, and it didn't really make sense to me as how, like,
The revelation, again, trying to be spoiler free. No, not the
that.
revelation.
No,
Okay.
it's the people that she's fighting, and they basically there's a town.
Yeah.
It's a whole town.
Not spoilers.
And
It's a
I
town.
don't. For me, I was like, I try and look beyond. I was like, well, this would still be this would be raising eyebrows somewhere. I don't care if it's in the Swiss Alps or the French.
It's not
whatever.
Wakanda.
Right, like this would still be raising eyebrows in some place, shape, or form. But but I'm willing to let it slide because it's the rule of cool. It is the way it is because it needs to.
They were basically just like, here's a little town. Let's fuck it up.
Yeah.
let's just let the action roll here, and it did. I mean, once that, like I said, once again, when that movie gets going at the end sequence and gets his legs up and under, it really doesn't stop till. Well, it doesn't stop till the credits roll, basically.
And her motivations for a couple of other reasons. Again, I'm not going to get into it. You may, if you go see the movie, you'll kind of notice it. But it's because it needs to happen. It was something that I'm motivated to do this, and oh well, this is now my entire personality.
Yeah.
It was kind of like,
Yeah, it was one of those things like where she got distracted by a side quest, if you will, when your main quest was her backstory. But Peter, as always, as we come to a close of the review, we always like to give the viewers and talk about our rating of the movie, even if you want to rate it on the whole or in the John Wick sequence. What are you giving it? What do you think?
I'm giving this 7.5, 8 out of 10.
On the movie scale or the John Wick scale?
Well, on the movie scale, on a John Wick scale, I don't. You know what? I'm not going to put it on the John Wick scale because it's not a John Wick movie.
I knew you were going to say that.
It isn't, because again, it's not fair to put this up against like the Keanu Reeves vehicle when he's only in a small part of it and he's not supposed to be the driver. He is barely in the trunk.
I would agree with you. I would have said 7 out of 10 as well. It never kept me on the edge of my seat, so to speak, but every time that Anna de Armas picked up a tool to use, I was like, okay, let's strap in here.
Yeah, where's she going to use
Exactly, and there was some cool weapons. Oh, again, no spoilers. There was cool things that she used, utilized, there we go, that I thought was really cool. So because of that, I'm going to keep it up top of the scale on a 7 out of 10.
And I'm hoping for a sequel because it's not a spoiler. It's open-ended. You can determine however you want it to be. It's not a finite end.
No, agree.
And they could leave it at this and it would be disappointing, but okay. Or they could do more with this, and I have ideas of how they could.
And I'm actually curious because now they've opened up this door from the world of John Wick. Is there anything else to be seen? Well, obviously we have the Continental. I know that.
There's the Continental, but there's the animated series.
Right. So maybe there's a video game some other characters. Like I'll just use one as example off the top of my head. The blind. I'm going to forget his name, but the blind.
Yeah, he's supposed to have.
Yeah, so he might have something. So again, it kind of makes us excited as John Wick fans. What is to come in cinema?
Kane,
I think. Man, we're terrible at this. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for our 2-week behind review of From the World of John Wick, Ballerina. As always, if you want to support the channel, we do appreciate if you would just take 1 second to hit our subscribe button, hit our like button, and as I said, if you've seen the movie, let us know. Does our review stack up with yours? Will you be hoping for a sequel to this, or are we going to hold out on John Wick 5? And with that, I am the real Jussy.
I'm Anna de Armas, and like we always say around here,
Keep it real.